All right. So, um, I wanted to put something down on video because um, I'm getting older, and everybody knows you get a little older, you start to forget stuff, right? So, I did up a compilation CD of studio stuff that I did with like three bands. It has three bands on it: Turn of Bliss, Secondhand Smoke, and a band called Sword. Those were original bands, um, but this is studio stuff. And so, along with that, I just wanted to put something down on video because I kind of wanted to go through, not because I think I'm some hotshot singer or some great songwriter or something like that. It's just that, like I said, I'm getting old. I'll be 47 my next birthday. Can't believe I made it this long, but I did. Thank God. But I wanted to put something down on video and put it to my YouTube channel because, what the hell, why not? And, but I'm going to go through the songs that are on the CD. It's not all the stuff that I've ever done in the studio, but it's a fair amount, So, but I put that together like a year or so ago, and I gave it out to a couple guys that was in the band with some friends of mine, and I'm glad I did that because it was stuff that was like on tape. I mean, we're in 2017, and this stuff is like from early stuff, like 1994. And over time, tapes get wore out, and they get, they won't be around at all. You can barely play them now. You gotta get, they have tape players out there. But and CD is going to be the same thing. Everything's digital now. You download everything. You don't need CD players, and it's kind of like 8 tracks went and vinyl went and things like that. But I wanted to talk a little bit first. You can only have 15 minutes. For some reason, I don't know how to download anything to YouTube longer that's over 15 minutes. So I'll have a few little segments, that are going to be like 15 minutes long, and I'll put it on my YouTube. And I guess I'll just start out of how I got into singing. July 19th, 1970. I'm not going to go that far back. But when I was a kid, I was always interested in music. And I think my parents were into country, and I was really drawn to that. So that's really what I grew up on, was early country. And I had an older sister. And she kind of turned me on to stuff that was like top 40 stuff in the 70s. I remember that. And I remember listening to Elvis and, all these great country singers like, Freddie Hart and Conway Twitty and all these guys. I still listen to today because just great stuff, man. That 70s and early 80s stuff, man. I was really into country growing up. But I think the reason that I got into music to do singing, my mom, she sang a little bit when she was growing up in like her church and things like that, and she actually had she comes from a fairly large family. It was like I don't know, 6 or 7. She had siblings, like 6 or 7 siblings. So, and I know a few of her brothers, my uncles, were involved in music, like playing music. And one uncle I had, he had his own studio down in I think it was North Carolina or South Carolina, one of the two. So I think it's something I was born with, and I mean, you can be taught certain things, I guess, but I think when you're a singer and you feel that, I think it's just something that you're born with, and I think I had it, and but it definitely comes from early influence. It was definitely country, man. I love that country stuff, and but as I got older, a buddy of mine I went to school with, Rob Pearson, still friends with him today. When I was about like 13 or 14, I want to say 14, is probably a little bit more like it. We were just in school. He was we were in school together. He was a year above me, and he said one day, he said, "Man, you ever heard of a band called Black Sabbath?" And I was like, "I don't think so." But I mean, I always had like a little radio, so I might have heard something on the radio, because I always had a radio when I was a kid, a little stereo, plastic stereo. And I remember little 45 records and the big 33 records. But playing those, and I never really got a real stereo. I'm kind of jumping on the topic a little bit. I never really got a real stereo until, I was like 15 or 16 or something like that. You know, with the bigger speakers, very cool. And but anyway, so he says to me one day, he says, "Man, you ever heard of a band called Black Sabbath?" And I was like, "I don't think so. I don't think so." And of course, back in those days, the vinyl was still around, so he let me have he let me borrow the big Solar Soul for Rock and Roll. It's like the greatest hits of Black Sabbath. I think it covers like the first 4 albums or something. So so now, I was like 13 or 14. I think it was more 14. And so I took it home, and and I put it on, man. And I mean, it just drew me right in, man. The sound of the guitar and drums and bass. I never heard anything like that before, never. But the thing that got it was Ozzy's vocal. I mean, his vocal was. I mean, it just pulled me right in, man. I mean, I couldn't. I had never heard anything like that before. It was just so raw, And I mean, it completely changed the way that I thought about things, And there's some pretty heavy subjects, in there, death and drug abuse and stuff like that. I didn't really understand at that time. My mom had passed away when I was 11, so I knew a little bit about death, but to hear that kind of music and the way that the way he delivered his vocals was so raw, man. I mean, it just blew my mind. And I probably had that record. I probably had it about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks at the most. And I mean, by the time that I'd given it back to him after that couple weeks, I knew almost every single word that Ozzy sang on those songs, and it went from not knowing anything to, I didn't necessarily have all the phrasing that down, but I knew almost every single word that he put down, and I mean, it just sucked me right in. I just totally blew my mind. And after that, after I give it back to him, I was like, okay, I got to go get every Black Sabbath album that I can. And the only one I could ever find was Paranoid. So my first 2 records that I ever bought in vinyl, was Alabama. It's a country band. It was Alabama. Was their first album, and the other one was Black Sabbath. Those were the first 2 albums I ever bought. Was the Paranoid album. And I remember I got that thing, man, and a lot of the songs that were on the Solar Soul for Rock and Roll was off of Paranoid, But there were just some songs in there, like Hand of Doom was on there, man, and, just this very underground, it was like really deep track kind of stuff, man. And I mean, I listened to that album. I would go to school and come home and couldn't wait to get home to put that album on, man. I mean, it just hooked me, and I listened to that thing over and over and over again. And of course, I went and got a tape, got the tape of it. And but that's kind of what started it for me, man. Was just Sabbath, and I would, like I said, I would go to school, and I couldn't wait to get home because I could listen to it, and really early, man. I mean, I had a floor-length mirror in my bedroom, and I would put that album on, and right at the beginning, and I would just stand right in front of the mirror and just sing Ozzy, man. I mean, I started to get down how he delivered his vocals. And I just stood in front of the mirror and I just sang. I mean, War Pigs, Iron Man, like Hand of Doom, The Fairies Wear Boots, and I mean, all these great songs that are on that album. And it was really cool because if I had the house to myself all night, which my dad, he would get home like 4 o'clock from work or whatever, and then he would go down to the fire hall and he would be occupied down there for the rest of the night. And my stepmom, if she was on like the second shift, I guess you would come see, if she had to go to work like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, she wouldn't get home like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and I would have the whole house myself, man. And I mean, it was just a Black Sabbath night, man, just cranked up and stand in front of the mirror and sing. And I always told myself, man, one day I want to do that in front of people, and it took a few years, but I did it. So, but yeah, that was really like the first thing. Actually, the second thing that really turned me on to music was Black Sabbath. And as I got a little older, I got into different stuff like the Doors and things like that. And if I was to say if I stole anything, the way that I sing is I stole from Ozzy and I stole from Jim Morrison. Jim Morrison, man, that guy, not necessarily a really great singer, you know, but he could definitely write a great song. But the thing that I liked about Morrison was singing is one way to get your message across, but he had this thing where he would speak his lyrics, man, and that got me too. You know, just the way that he would do that. And I've done that on several songs that I did in the studio, and I still do today. There's something really powerful about that, and I always thought that was powerful, and I always thought it was cool to be able to do that. And he was one of those guys that could definitely pull that off. And so that's the two guys that I stole from to get, if you want to say, my style, the way that I sing, the way I deliver. Because I can listen to things today and stuff that I wrote a long time ago and think, I don't know how the hell I came up with some stuff. I really don't. It's just being caught up in the moment and you know, going from there, you know. And that's how things should come about, you know, is that I love a live feeling, you know what I mean? And those two guys really pulled that live feel off on record, you know. So going back just a little bit, so yeah, that sold our soul for rock and roll, man. I'm very grateful that I was actually able to get a hold of that and listen to that, because like I said, that changed everything, changed the way that I thought, and changed the way I viewed the world, you know. And like I said, there was some stuff on there I didn't quite understand because I was still young, but I understand a lot better now. So that pretty much covers the way that I got into singing. The first, let's see, where the hell we're at about 12 minutes. So I'll tell you what, I'm gonna make that. I think I'm gonna make that my first video right now. That's gonna be it. So that's the first part, and I'll go ahead and turn it off, and we'll get ready. I'll get ready to do the second one. The second one, I guess it'll be about you know, going through high school and stuff like that. Well, I can cover that right now. So as I was going through high school, you know, I remember a lot of times I could hear a song once or twice. If I liked it, it got in my head and wouldn't get out. So we'd go to like parties and stuff like that. And there was a guy I went to school with. His name was Reed Jesse, and he played guitar. And he knew like some Sabbath stuff and things like that. And I think I borrowed a little crate amp from him that I sang from. We would go to parties and stuff, and this was in high school. So we were seniors at the time, and we would go to parties, and he would bring his guitar, and I would sing, you know, like Black Sabbath, man. And I remember being in school, walking down the hallway singing War Pigs. There was my locker was. I used to leave school like around 11:30 or whatever. And I remember going to my locker, and a buddy of mine had class like right by my locker, and he said, "Man, we could hear you coming, man. You're singing that goddamn War Pigs." Yeah, stuck in my head, you know, and it sounded good going down the hallway, so I would just sing it walking down the hallway. But yeah, so this is going to be the first video. I'm going to stop right there, and I'll see you on the next one. Stay tuned.